Welcome to this meeting, extraordinary council meeting of Middlesbrough Council. Must remind all councillors to use microphones when you're speaking. Well, that's not much good. We're not expecting a fire alarm, but in the event that one sounds, please you make your way to the bottom of your which is down on our opposite Mina, behind the nearest fire escape. This is a meeting of Middlesbrough Council, a business meeting. Members of the public are welcome to attend and listen to the debate. They're not allowed to call out or disrupt the meeting. If any of them do so, they will be issued with a warning. Second time, it will be passed. Right. Apologies for absence.
Councillor Arundel, Councillor Bell, Councillor Goodchild, Councillor Hill, Councillor Hussain, Councillor Rostron, Councillor Sands, Councillor Saunders and Councillor Udall.
Anyone else? No?
Councillor Chris McIntyre.
Declarations of interest. Do we have any? Right. Executive scheme of delegations. Hand this over to the Mayor, who's going to announce his changes to his executive scheme of delegation, which are relevant to the topic of this extraordinary meeting.
Thank you. There's no microphone, so I'll try and project my voice a bit. Hi, good evening. Things to talk about kids, Middlesbrough's children. We have clearly failed them. Putting that right is our number one priority, and I hope that surprises every single person in this room. With this in mind, I have changed the structure of the executive group, and we've split children's services into two. And Councillor Barry Cooper, who was previously in charge of all of that, is going to focus on the education section, and Anthony Hyde, who's the Deputy Mayor, is going to focus on what we might call pure children's services. And the reason for this is twofold. First of all, the scope of that is really just too big in this extraordinarily difficult situation. The second one is that Anthony brings a range of experiences and skills. He is very experienced in working with troubled adults, and I'm talking about things like addiction, domestic violence, and other behaviours and problems. And many of the issues we face in children's services relate in connection with those problems. In addition to that, as the founder and director of a children's nursery business, Anthony is very familiar with interacting with Ofsted, and so can bring some experience and skills there. It's really important that we unite. This week I've had conversations with some colleagues from the Labour group, from the Tories, and from some independents, and it's really important that we unite. I was in Hartlepool today. I went to see the head of children's services in Hartlepool, and the reason I wanted to go is that they are similarly challenged. They are desperately short of money. They have an extraordinarily difficult demographic, yet we've got a good Ofsted rating. So I wanted to start the process of learning what they do well, what we can perhaps try and mimic, and bring this side of expertise. The last thing I'll say is just that we are here tonight to improve the lives and futures of children. And I would ask all members to please get behind that. Yes, let's unite. Let's do what Hartlepool do and do it really well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council note those amendments in the executive scheme of delegation? No. Yeah? Right, we'll carry on. I'd like to invite Councillor Story now to present the reason. Just before you start, Councillor, the rules are the same as rules for ordinary meetings where you get 2 minutes to speak. Obviously yourself and Councillor Hyde will have a lot more to explain than we're going 2 minutes, so I'm quite prepared to let you go on a little bit.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I'll have a bit more than 2 minutes. Okay, so thank you, Chair. Extraordinary meetings in the past have on occasion been called for spurious reasons, sometimes to make cheap political points or to divert attention from good work happening at the council. On this occasion, we've called the extraordinary meeting for the right reasons. The Ofsted report into Children's Services, which was published in January, was damning and labelled the Council's Children's Services Department as inadequate in all areas. Labour councillors have called for this meeting so we can raise pertinent questions, discuss the strategy and way forward with the department and the council, and talk about how we react to ensure that young people in the council's care receive the support and care they need and deserve. There have been briefings and opportunities for councillors to ask questions on this topic, but in the spirit of openness and transparency, we felt that the public had a right to hear their elected representatives discuss this critical matter. It is clear, in my opinion, from the Ofsted report and discussions we've had with officers, that a key reason for the judgment delivered by Ofsted was that Ofsted changed their criteria for assessing councils and their children's services departments, and that this change in the assessment framework was not properly addressed. There were no briefings or papers provided to elected members referencing these changes, and members should have been fully aware of any such major changes to how Ofsted would have been assessing the council. I would like to ask how senior leadership and the executive reacted to these changes. What did senior leaders and managers do to prepare for the changes, and how were these preparations communicated to staff? I've been impressed by the work of Sue Butcher that she's undertaken in terms of providing better communication and knowledge of the new framework, but we do need to identify what went wrong in how we addressed the framework when it was introduced so we can learn the lessons in terms of that aspect of the report. The key aspect of how we manage our response to the inspection is how we work with partners. The council is not solely responsible for children in care, but rather shares that responsibility with the police and local health services. We all face similar levels of budget pressure due to government policy, and how we deal with those pressures often results in the removal of the services or the scaling back of provision. All of these cuts are interconnected, and a cut in local policing or the CCG can have a huge impact on our Children's Services Department here in Middlesbrough. I would request that we formalise a process of budget briefings with the CCG and the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office during the course of the year to ensure that whatever service changes or reductions are being proposed in each partner organisation, we are all aware of them, we can all be prepared for any potential impacts, ensuring that we've raised our concerns or proposed alternatives if we believe such changes would be detrimental to children's services in Middlesbrough. I would also like to suggest that as the strategic plan is finalised and put into action, that we add a standing item to the full council agenda, not as part of the executive member's report, but as a separate item for the executive member to give a full update on progress and to inform elected members of any critical issues or matters that we should be aware of. I know that Councillor High has been appointed as the new executive member for Children's Services, and the Mayor's referenced that tonight. And in the press announcement of his appointment, as the Mayor has already stated, Councillor High brings a wealth of experience and expertise to the role, that he's worked with Ofsted in the past and has a record of troubleshooting organisations. I do not necessarily dispute any of these statements, but I would be most grateful to Councillor High in his statement if he could please specify in as much detail as possible exactly what these statements refer to, what is the evidence of his experience and expertise, what work has he done with Ofsted in the past, and how has he been a troubleshooter. This will both help to reassure elected members and, more importantly, local families, parents and other observers about his appointment to the role and his skills and background. The inspection highlighted the fact that Middlesbrough Council's corporate parenting functions were underdeveloped, and in light of this, more regular meetings with the corporate parenting board would demonstrate that we are serious about boosting the prominence of corporate parenting. The board must also receive regular statements and updates on the progress of the strategic plan so they can scrutinise and constructively challenge. Our scrutiny committees must ensure that we get regular updates and evidence from officers and the executive member concerned so that we involve all elected members intimately with the delivery of our improvement strategy. Even when I was an officer at the council, it was always drummed into me that all councillors are corporate parents. This is a role that we all have to fulfil, and we simply cannot afford to pay lip service to it. We must live that role and ensure that we give it the emphasis and import that it deserves. There is no greater responsibility for a local authority than to look after our most vulnerable children, and we must work as elected members to live up to that responsibility. I was pleased to be invited by the Mayor, along with Councillor Craig Wright and the Executive Member for Children's Services, to sit on a cross-party working group looking at how the Council responds to the inspection. It is essential that we work with cross-party lines to deliver solutions and tackle this issue, and this is a step in the right direction in that regard. The inspection did highlight some positives, and I think it's important for frontline staff that we appreciate and praise the work that they do in the most difficult and often harrowing circumstances. Our early health work was praised in the report, which many of us have seen working first hand to try and support vulnerable families and ensure wherever possible that children are not taken into care. Retention of sibling and family links was also highlighted as a positive, and staff do feel well supported and positive about working in Middlesbrough. These positive aspects can give us some hope and should not be forgotten. I was also pleased that the Mayor has decided to take the advice of the Labour group on the Council and publicly stated his intention to request extra funding from the government. The number he quoted was £20 million over 4 years, and I would be most grateful if the Mayor could explain how that figure was arrived at, in detail what exactly he expects that money to pay for, what discussions he's had with ministers thus far, and what correspondence has taken place between his office and central government in terms of requesting that extra funding, and what is his expectation of success in terms of receiving said 20 million. In closing, the Council, both officers and elected members must now come together, ask the difficult, challenging questions that we need to, and set a course that retains children's services within the Council's remit and avoids at all costs any transfer to trust status. I'm sure all members will agree that the magnitude of the task is huge, but that we all want the best for the Council and the best for the children in our care. There are often issues which we discuss in this chamber and other committees of the Council which are of great importance to local people, which refer to the delivery of key services and how local government interacts in their everyday lives. Children's services and children in local authority care is a topic which is different. Vulnerable children, children and families in need of the most critical support, and how we provide that support is an issue that speaks to our own shared humanity. How do we secure safe, loving homes for children in Middlesbrough? I hope that in response to this inspection report, we all unite and work together to answer that question and to turn this situation around.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Councillor Hyde, would you like to present your report?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly,
Questions.
sorry.
Then we'll go into questions.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Story for bringing this extraordinary meeting to the Chamber. I think it's right and it's proper. There's nothing more significant than the safety of the children of Middlesbrough, so I really appreciate the opportunity you put into debate for all parties and all groups to share their concerns and ask some detailed questions. Firstly, I would like to highlight that it's not usually the practice to bring a report to an extraordinary meeting. There was a report that was put forward under the previous executive's name. Obviously, that is now over into my portfolio. There is an amendment that needs to be made to that report, and that's on point 13 around resources and planning. That's not for consideration within this debate or within this meeting. That will be going to the executive meeting on the 18th of February, just so people are aware that that is an item that can be discussed or recommended or considered within the debate that we'll have this evening. And just to end, because I know we're going to go into open debate and we want to really encourage a lot of questions and some political input. To answer your question, Matt, and the request that you've made, I don't think it's appropriate for me to go into my work and background at this moment in time, given a full CV of the things that achieved and what I've done. So what I will do is I will email all the group leaders and yourself and party leaders. I will meet with those away from the meeting this evening to specifically talk about those specific areas of delivery that I've done over a number of years, to further give confidence to the members in the room that I will be proactively looking at this issue right across the board. I think it's only right now to go into the room and allow members to appropriately approach the executive or anybody else in terms of questions on the matter that's being tabled. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Right, we're now going to questions. Please, if you wish to speak, will you put your hand up high? Do have reading glasses and it's difficult for me everything all the time. So put your hand up high, not just a couple of fingers. You have 2 minutes to ask your question, you get 3 minutes for a response. So we'll start with Councillor Cook.
This is more of a statement and a request, really. This for me is a subject I feel incredibly strongly about. Someone who spent time in care, and also about some of the challenges faced by the children, who look to us as a council to protect them. When we talk about Forever Home, I remember how difficult it was, having to adjust, having to move in again and again and again. When we talk about toxic trio, domestic abuse, substance abuse and mental health, This is the house I grew up in. And when we talk about care leads and their outcomes, I remember some of those that I grew up with turning to substance abuse or being guided by others through a path of self-destruction. A person's childhood can dictate the way they live the rest of their lives. By ensuring we provide the best provision when they need us most, we'll help them on their way to a more successful life. The alternative is not there thinking about. We should do everything possible to ensure that the authority and us as corporate parents deliver a far better provision than what's currently on offer. I will do anything I can to help, as will many of us, so I would urge you when you're creating committees or working groups to cast the net far and wide, and because there's probably more experience in the room than you know.
Thank you. Anybody like to answer them? Right. Councillor Marston, I think you were next.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a question for some information, please. Councillor Story referred to Ofsted changed the goalposts or the framework. I'd like to know when did the framework change, please? And we all support that the pay for everybody working together on the subject.
Right.
Hi, Councillor Boston. We believe that the change was in 2016. As a result, what we haven't seen within the services is that framework being driven through in terms of strategy and practice.
Thanks.
Right. Councillor McTeague, please. If you're going to ask a question, so ask it to a particular individual.
Yes.
So we know we can get an answer.
Yes, I got you. Can I say that I don't really like to answer this when somebody does? Is that allowed or not? Do I have to name someone? I don't mind who answers it. Okay, can I ask the mayor now? It's not much of a waste of time. Can I ask the mayor to answer? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's very sad and very worrying that we have to go elsewhere to another authority to ask them how to do this job, which is, as Councillor Story has said, the most important thing of any other authority is to look after the children in care. Everything else comes second. Yet we, on your admission, are having to go elsewhere to ask them how to solve this problem. It indicates to me that the people who are doing the job, especially those at the top of the can, don't know how to correct it. That shouldn't be, really shouldn't be. When you first arrived here, did you go to the chief exec and ask him, for example, what really serious problems do we have at the moment, and particularly which problems are costing us the most money? Because if you had, I'm sure the chief exec would have said, this problem, which is what we're discussing at the moment, since the previous Ofsted report was pretty bad, and then from July, apparently it started going down over. And then we've got this one, which is, worse than we've ever had. And finally, you have said in the press that, I'm not quoting you verbatim, but you more or less said that Councillor Cooper didn't have sufficient knowledge of children's needs to do the job. But you've now indicated tonight that Councillor Hyde did have. So why on earth, if you knew that what the problem was, why on earth did you give Councillor Hyde the job when you first came? Because you said that he had the qualifications and experience to tackle it. Thank you.
Thanks for that. First of all, there were three questions there. The first one is going elsewhere for advice. So it is really awful that we are in this situation, and the last thing that I should do is try and ascribe blame and look for a scapegoat, whether it's a financial scapegoat or an officer. But going to other authorities for advice and what's good practice is a recognised way of achieving best results in every field. So I think me going to Article today was actually something out of personal interest, trying to learn, trying to listen, trying to understand. I actually believe that we have the resources in-house now to do a great job. The second point that you mentioned was about me asking about problems to ask the Chief Executive. Yes, absolutely. And in fact, the Chief Executive and myself and other people had several conversations over the months about different departments and the way they're heading and how well they're working. And our understanding of children's services, based on all the reports we were getting, was that it was not good. In fact, it was weak, but it wasn't inadequate. And several times we had that piece of feedback. So that answers that question. But there was absolutely no secret anywhere in the organisation, in the political side, that we had Children's Services Department that was weak. That was very well known. That was reported by Ofsted in 2015. That was really clear at the last inspection, the last full inspection. So everybody in this room knew that. The third point you mentioned is saying that I suggested Barry Cooper was ill-equipped or not quite right. I've actually never ever said that, publicly or privately. So wherever you're getting a quote from, it's completely fictitious.
Excuse me. I didn't say, I said that don't quote. I said you inferred, and in fact I'll send you the copy from Gazette, but he didn't have sufficient knowledge of the needs of children care.
To be really clear to you, Joe, and to everyone, I have never ever said that to Barry, to anybody else here, or anybody.
It's in Gazette, I'll send you a copy. But you haven't answered the question. Why didn't you try to?
Councillor, your hand's on, sir.
The question hasn't been answered. Why didn't Councillor Hyde be given that job since he had, since you said tonight he was, he had lots of experience and lots of, why should he?
No.
Fair enough.
And Councillor Rooney.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor, just interrupt you before you start. It doesn't have to be a question, it can be a statement.
Right, thank you. I've got four.
You've got 2 minutes.
Sorry, I'm saying that one. For all these questions, for asking the first of all, to respond to Councillor Mawston, the framework changed in September 2019. I'm reliably informed. In reference to the comments made by Councillor High and his offer to send us all the CV, that's welcome. However, I think the public need to know about his experience as well. It's got to be wider than just the members. And my question is, will there be a forensic assessment of where the services failed? Who will carry this out? What is the timescale attributed to it? And what will be done to ensure that the staff are supportive of this investigation? And what assurances have we got that we will bring the staff along with us? Thank you.
What was the question? So,
That was, if anybody wants to answer it, and Councillor High or anybody else who
Councillor,
Chair, please can you answer the question we asked again? Is that okay?
I asked the question. It's just a bit difficult without any.
Exactly.
Okay, right, I'm showing down to the time. Alright, will there be a forensic assessment of where the services went wrong? First one. Underneath that is who will carry it out? What's the timescale attributed to it? What will be done to ensure that we bring the staff along with us in this process? We've already heard that the staff feel well supported. We do not want to lose that good work as part of this investigation.
Sorry, I was just trying to take up the question there. So to answer the initial part, what word does it use? The forensics. The forensics have been done. Do you know, that's why we've got the Ofsted report that we've got now. That's then going to lead to the Department of Education, Ofsted, and an allocated commissioner coming in and doing a 12 weeks bespoke, detailed piece of work to truly understand whether we as a local authority are fit and set to be able to drive young people, children's services beyond that 12-week period. In terms of your statement about staff, it's valid. We do have a hard-working team, and as you can imagine, motivation is quite low at the moment in terms of such a damning report. There are a number of working groups that are going to be set by the new Director of Children's to fully engage all staff members in relation to the current areas of delivery and future practice going forward. Thank you.
Councillor Cook, before you start, Councillor, just remember it's a comment or a question. If it's a question, will you be specific as to who you actually asking the question?
This is a question second to that he stated earlier on that Environment Council Story and all groups who should be involved. I think they want to say, I would like to be involved in this, as long as everybody else thinks it is fair, that's right across the board. Particularly discuss things to take them further on, because it hasn't been stated by Council Story and others, the children in this family is absolutely vitally important. We've had discussions of things in the past and want to make sure this continues for the good of all the children. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to answer Councillor McTeague, actually. I think it's right if I draw your attention to page 11, paragraph 5 of the Ofgem report. It didn't actually criticise me in any way. It didn't say I was incompetent or under-educated. They actually said the recent appointment lead member has not had enough time to understand the issues of children and young people in Middlesbrough. I fully agree with that. And I think you have to agree with me on that, because the recovery plan is actually a 3-year plan. So expecting me to work miracles in 5 months isn't on. I would like also to point out that we had 2 new appointments to the staff before the inspectors arrived. And those were 2 appointments that the inspectors actually asked for. So we were ahead of the game, not behind.
Anybody else? Councillor, how are we?
Thank you, Chair. I'm the relatively new chair of the Corporate Parenting Board. I've chaired 2 excellent meetings recently. So it was quite disconcerting to read in the Ofsted that the corporate parenting is underdeveloped. It says that aspirations for children in care and care leaders are not good enough, and the action taken to make a collective responsibility of the council's elected members, employees and partner agencies, is not good enough either, particularly in relation to housing, education and employment. I'd like to go back to the notion of corporate parenting, which was introduced in 1998 by Frank Dobson when he was Secretary of State for Health. And this is what he said corporate parents are. For the children who are looked after, your council has a legal and moral duty to try to provide the kind of loyal support that any good parents would give their children. You should do your utmost to make sure that children in public care get a good start in life. Now, for most children, parents hold together the strands of their life, and we can talk about what it means to be a good parent. But when children come into care, it has 2 major consequences for them. Firstly, in addition to the problems of needing to reform attachments, they move into a world of sometimes changing carers, paid and otherwise, where life is managed through formal and legal processes. That's quite a daunting thought, I think, for children's lives and their chances. Secondly, in addition to learning to cope in this world, they have lost the continuity of parental management. So therefore, this corporate parenting responsibility is to be shared by each and every one of us, and we've really got to take an interest in how we progress all this. We've got to work together across all the various agencies, and we've got to be proactive, looking beyond our own remit on how we can look after children. It's imperative that we work together and strive together. There were various criticisms in the report that I was going to bring out about various aspects of children's services, such as the virtual school. But I won't talk about that at length, because what I want to say is that recently I have met with officers and I have come up with a 10-point plan to strengthen corporate parenting, to strengthen the corporate parenting board, and to work closely with different members of the council. So what I want to say to everyone tonight is that if you have any ideas that you think are valid and would like to share with any member of the corporate parenting board, because we can more directly enact your ideas, I'd like you to consider and think about how you could make a contribution to improving the lives of the children in our town. Indeed, as people have said, the children who are the most vulnerable. It's a great responsibility that we need to take extremely seriously, and together, please let's share ideas and move on. I'm going to develop a 10-point plan. I'll feed back to people as I move forward through it and talk about the successes and changes that we will implement in the near future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Just referencing back to what Councillor Story said at the start, one of the key findings of yesterday's report was that there has been a lack of multi-agency partnerships across the council and other authorities. Another key finding was that there was a quality assurance program that the council had that wasn't really monitored properly. So something that, whether it's a public sector organisation or a private sector organisation, having a critical voice, whether it's an internal voice or an external voice like Ofsted, is always a healthy thing. We do have a lot of skilled people within the council, and one potential ongoing useful tool might be to actually beef up the internal audit department of the council. It would be an investment, it would be a cost at a time where we can't necessarily afford that cost, but equally the cost of not delivering these services to the council's reputation and just to the end users who are vulnerable children. So I would, just as food for thought, say we need to consider having at least, I've no doubt these things are in place anyway, but the Ofsted report did highlight that they were weak. So having that being an internal audit function separate to the internal body of the council that deals with children's services might be a very useful tool, in the future going forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Councillor Roby.
Thank you, Chair. Right. I'd like to know about the work we're doing with stakeholders. Have all the stakeholders been identified? And can Councillor Hyde tell us who they might be? I'm particularly thinking about care leavers, because we're starting to look into how we move forward within young people, but I'm particularly interested in how we provide support to people that leave our care.
Thank you, Councillor Rooney. I mean, we need to be very clear and say that the last few weeks we've been working extremely hard to closely engage with all external partners. They play a part of the bigger picture. Whilst we're responsible, they have the duty of care also to ensure that those communication pathways are there. It was only yesterday we were in a full Children's Trust Board, which brings along all the statutory and non-statutory organisations. We've been working internally with all members, so everybody is fully briefed. I think the reality, what people need to be aware of, is the next 12 weeks we're going to have a commissioner allocated into the area. Throughout that process, they will be going through every single area of delivery to see where the greater improvements can be made. They will be the expert, they will be driving the bus, and we need to be ready and waiting to respond and react as appropriate to ensure that we can show and safely prove to the Department of Education, Ofsted and the Commissioner that beyond the 12 weeks we are capable of delivering these services for the children of Middlesbrough. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Rathwell.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going back to one thing the Mayor said at the start of this meeting, improving the lives and futures of children. And I agree, it's of paramount importance. And I do believe from the briefing we received just the other day from Mrs. Butcher, the new Director of Children's Services, there's the intention there from that particular post holder. It's a relatively new appointment, and it would be unfair for any criticisms to be levelled at that post. One thing that does concern me though are the other briefings that we had last week, on Thursday last week and Friday. It was acknowledged and admitted there was systemic management failings from the top of this authority down. Now I don't believe for 1 minute the frontline staff are part of the problem. We all know what pressures are like when they're exerted above. One thing that was useful from the briefings is that we discovered the executive had been treated like mushrooms and kept in the dark, only being told what officers wanted them to know. Very much so to members across the board. Now the Mayor said he was aware of the situation and that it wasn't all rosy in the garden. We've heard that extraordinary meetings have been used in the past for spurious reasons. Well actually, on Councillor Story's point, one of those spurious reasons actually fell under Children's Services, ironically, with the Sandwell Castle. And the outcome of that was an apology from the Chief Executive that the members wouldn't have information withheld from them. There would be an era of openness and transparency. and that would continue. Yet, at the same briefings last week, we were told that actually that openness and transparency hasn't continued. So one of my questions is for the Mayor. When you were elected, there was this new group approach of openness, transparency, doing things correctly. As corporate parent,
Can I just interrupt you? I'm told you're raising matters which aren't in the character of the questions in the main answer.
sorry, Chair, point of clarification. The matter referred to came under the Directorate of Children's Services, and it was also dealt with by the Executive Member of Children's Services, and they had no knowledge of it. The same scenario we find ourselves in now. Which bit of that lacks clarity, please, to the monitoring officer?
You've got to have a question that reflects on the character or conduct of the person.
Sorry. Do you want a bit of time to consider the response?
The Council Procedure Rules, Rule 21, provides that you can't comment or ask a question on a matter that reflects the character or conduct of a person.
And which person am I referring to?
You're referring to employees of the Council.
I'm referring to the knowledge members, Harry, and the fact that they were kept in the dark there.
The preamble of the question was in relation to officers.
Transparency.
Sorry, just for a point of clarity then, with the monitoring officer, a number of questions have been raised this evening. The preamble has referred to officers by name, it's referred to officers by title. Which of this question do you find particularly offensive?
I'm not sure we've established what the question is.
Well, if you hadn't interrupted and let me finish, you would have got to the question. The question is, the Mayor was elected on this new group approach of openness and transparency, doing things properly, and we've heard that that hasn't been done for a second time, and more specifically in relation to children's services. So therefore, as corporate parents, how can we actually have confidence that we're being given the appropriate information when members have continuously had information withheld, not being provided information, and have no form of reliability? Effectively, Mayor, Preston, what you're asking us to do is look at the top of the authority, and as corporate parents, trust the childminder with a history of withholding. How does that reconcile?
Well, I'll reply. I must say I am genuinely confused by the question, but I think I might know what you're getting at. So forgive me if it isn't really what you're asking. But basically, I think there's a false premise in there where you're saying that officers have misled or kept in the dark. Trust me, that isn't true, and that wasn't said in there. What was said?
Sorry, Chair, point of clarification. At the member briefings on Thursday and Friday, you weren't in attendance. Numerous members were, and when the issue was raised about members having information withheld and members not being provided information when asked, there was a hands-up admission that has happened, but that isn't going to happen in the new action plan. So how can you be so firm in your response?
Okay, so what has happened and what has been articulated and agreed from every side is that some officers got it completely wrong, and the information they provided was lacking. But never anywhere has anybody admitted or conceded there was an attempt to hide, keep in the dark, mislead, or anything like that. So we've got to squash that right now, because it's nasty and it's an attempt to smear people. So we've got to stop that. If you're asking how we're going to guarantee to have better information going forward, well, I think what we need to do is beef up our corporate parenting board. We need a cross-party group that looks at stuff. We need a stronger scrutiny committee. And what we need for that, we need everyone to unite. We need some people to ditch habits of a lifetime, causing trouble and try to find mischief. And we need to get behind the children of this town and give them a better future.
So
Chair, follow up.
John, you've had
No.
to say, sit down.
It's point of clarification.
John, you've had to say, you've had
It's
to
a point
question.
of clarification.
Mayor
Chair.
answered you, sit
The
down.
Mayor has said that there
John,
was no admission.
listen, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Sit down.
I just want to clarify why
No,
further
no,
constitution.
no. You've had your questions.
No problem. But there was an admission of withholding information.
He's hiding all sorts.
Councillor Hubbard. You
No,
wish to speak?
Peter Robson.
No, absolutely.
Thanks, Chair. Council Sterling, Council only spoke wide spectrum of what we organise. But the Mayor give this council a guarantee that those responsible who may play the authority, that no one walks away with the traditional large cash settlements. To do so would be a travesty of justice to those who have suffered as a result of total competition.
Because that's a question that relates to the conduct of an officer, as previously stated, really clearly outlined, we must discuss that.
That's what you keep saying to us. We must discuss. That's called teaching. You did send a letter to us.
Excuse me, you're a member of the public. You were told to stand up, you don't care who you are, you were told to be quiet. Please be quiet. I won't let you hear.
There's a difference.
I won't let
There's a
you hear.
difference between being told to do that. When I get told to do something, that is when I react to people, because I'm not a child anymore. That is being abused by people like him.
I'm sorry, you're having to choose a call in for a meeting like this. I'm asking you again, shut up or go out.
You can't have a minute, tell somebody, you have a legal up to there. Right, is there a difference between told to be shut up or asked to be quiet? When you tell somebody shut up in your attitude, that is where it is wrong. I am not told you to shut up. Don't tell me to. You can ask me, you cannot tell me.
Okay, I'm asking you. Be
I
quiet.
will now be quiet.
You always
But in future, you need the same respect as anybody else. Don't tell me to shut up, because of an ignorance of my game.
I'll just read it out again. Members of the public, this is a business meeting of this council. Members of the public are welcome to attend and listen to the debate. They are not allowed to call out or disrupt the meeting. Anyone who does this, they will be issued with a warning. If they proceed to interrupt the meeting, they will be asked to leave.
I've got to speak to you.
No, sorry. No. You member of the public, you know the rules. You've been here as long as I have. You know the rules. You know the
Constitution that you can allow to speak.
Councillor Cooper, you wish to say something?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to just go back to what the meeting's all about. It's about the outcome of the recent offset inspection into children's services, at which time I was the executive for that. Now, first of all, I fully support Councillor Hyde taking that weight off my shoulders. Secondly, I would like to reassure Councillor Lathwell and everybody else that there's no secrecy, there's nothing being hidden. I came in June and I started asking questions. One of the things that was a problem was that the officer I asked wasn't sure that I could be told. So it wasn't a case of withholding information or anything like that. Now what you've got to bear in mind is the mayor can't be everywhere. That's why he has executives. He trusts us to look after certain sections of the business. And that's what I was doing. But I didn't have the right information because they weren't sure they could give me it. So therefore, I couldn't feed it back to the mayor. Well, there is definitely no cover up here. I've been as honest as I can be all the time, and I'm quite happy to speak to anybody at any time, either in this meeting or outside of the meeting, explain what happened. But I do want you to be aware that we are now all, hopefully, working together for what is the reason we're here, and that's to protect our children. And that is very, very important to me. Thank you, Chair.
I just want to say, Chair, this document is one of the most damning documents that this council's seen. in many there, but it's the most important. And what's contained in this document gives us insight into what needs changing. And I think we've all read it and we all see that there are points in this document put right, things can be put right. And the amount of work that I've seen over the last couple of weeks with elected members, cross party, and with officers, everybody putting a statement and put this right has been comforting.
Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to say that it's not very often I say I agree with what Councillor Storey has said, but I do agree with what he said tonight. I think the things that he read out, I believe that we all feel the same. I think we're all passionate about our children. The report was very damning, and I think we all got a shock when the report came out. We do have a plan going forward. We've got a new officer in place. What I'm saying is, please let us move forward. Please let us all work together, and please let us look after our children in the responsible way that we're supposed to. And please not let us start arguing among ourselves, but let us go forward with a very positive attitude and let us all work together. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Right. So what we'll do now, we'll ask Councillor Storey to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I'm entitled to pick up on
Can I just interrupt you?
Yeah.
Just before you start. I'm going to ask you to sum up and propose any recommendations that you have.
Okay. Well, I'll just pick up on a few things that have been said in the course.
You're going to get your time.
No, I'm not going to have 2 minutes on any political story. I don't always separate it, I do. So, I'll pick up a few things that have been said. Councillor Racknell refers to my original statement about spurious and extraordinary general meetings. I didn't specify any particular ones. He did specify one of the ones that he called himself. Perhaps there's a window into his soul, but that's nothing for me to comment on. I think it's very important that we take what the Mayor said in response to Councillor Racknell to heart. It's very easy for us to stand here and make statements, we all have tonight. But it isn't so much about the statements we make, it's what comes next. It's easy to say you've noticed a problem, it's easy to say that you're going to criticise officers or departments or what's happening in the council. But what's the next bit? What are you going to do next? What happens after that? And I did make some criticisms and I did suggest some challenges, but when I did that I also suggested things we could do differently or better. And I think that's incumbent upon all of us to do that at every stage and how we take this forward. I think it's really important that we get responses to the questions that have been asked, and one of the things I would like to resolve tonight, Stefan Walker asked a very good question about internal audit but didn't receive much of a reply. I would like something in writing for Stefan about that because I think that was a really critical aspect of what's been said. I am disappointed that Councillor Hyde didn't verbally respond to my question about his background, but I am pleased that he's going to do something in writing. I think it's good that that's happening. It's also a shame that the Mayor didn't reference my question about national funding, but I would appreciate something in writing on what your plan is in terms of that funding request that you're planning to make if that is possible. So I think it's really important that we don't lose sight of best practice. I think Councillor McTighe criticised best practice, but the Mayor's right when he says we have to look at who's doing what elsewhere and see if there are things we can borrow or do better on, based on that. Some of the best work we've done on scrutiny, and I was involved in some of these scrutiny reports, involved best practice about housing delivery vehicles which relate to M homes and creation of our housing delivery vehicle, and best practice in terms of buses and local transport in terms of recommended bus franchising. And if we take best practice from elsewhere, we can make sure we find a way through this process in the right way. It is very difficult to find best practice because actually a lot of local authorities of a similar nature to ours have very similar funding issues and therefore present with some of the very same situations we have in terms of our children's services. So it is hard to find that best practice, but where we do find it, we should borrow from those people. I think it's been a decent debate. I think we've done the best we can in terms of keeping it respectful, and I think there is a way forward, and I think we're all trying to sing off the same hymn sheet here and unite around the idea that we have to do better and that we accept there are issues, but that if we do pull in the same direction, we can make a difference for the children in Middlesbrough. I just wanted to quote something. I wanted to quote Nelson Mandela. He said, "There was no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." And I think we've got to make sure that we live up to that, and that as a council we come out the other side of this better and provide a better service for the children of Middlesbrough.
Matthew, we don't have any recommendations.
There was some, I made some asks about responses that we couldn't get, that.
Right. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you all for attending, all for joining in and taking part. And a safe journey home.